Hi guys, welcome back to K-pop Talks. Today we're doing a new list of the the worst albums of the year, obviously of 2023. This list is say it's gonna be relatively interesting for a bunch of reasons. And I think number one for me is like, it's been a good year, as I've said a million times in different videos. It's been a very, very successful year, I think. But if I have to look at the overall, like specifically some of the big names that dropped, I think that it was probably one of their worst years. I think definitely worse than 2022 for some of these groups. And I think there was a lot of disappointments, a lot of comebacks that I had high hopes for, they didn't do particularly well. I would say even certain comebacks specifically that felt a little bit, how can I say, like a little bit like rushed or incomplete, or simply just they had nothing to say. So I think it's gonna be a good list. Of course, you're gonna get K-pop, you're gonna get solo artists, and you're gonna get obviously a bunch of hip-hop artists in here from Korea. Obviously, there's gonna be no Japanese artists for surprises, but I think this is a good list to get into. It's gonna be a top 20, and I'm gonna obviously give you my explanation of different albums and why I think this album deserves to, in my opinion, be on this list. So number 20, you have Primrose with Red Moon. I think I've discussed this a million times. I think the biggest problem for Primrose is they're too much a Blackpink copycat. They've tried, it's fine to want to follow their steps, but you have to be more yourself, and I think overall the quality of the songs are not there. You know, they've been around for some time, it's just that they're not necessarily where I thought they could be at first, and they've gotten, I think in certain parts specifically worse. I think specifically production wise they've definitely gotten worse. So yeah, it deserves to be on this list. Number 19, Bubblegum with Love.zip. I've talked about this group, I mean it's pretty much just a solo artist at this point, but it's over. I think she has nothing to say anymore. The brand, she was able to take the brand and trash it into the bin, and I think the music really explains it. Plasticky, no feeling, completely lost what made this group specifically great, which was musically, but specifically the lyrics. They were very real and felt honest. It felt like it was a bunch of girls them writing it instead of having her writers and everything. So yeah, it's such a sad state of affair for what used to be an iconic duo of this genre. Number 18, Apink with Self. This is one of my biggest disappointments of this year. Not only this, but the single, everything felt extremely disappointing. It felt like, again, another rushed project. Obviously, Nan was supposed to be in, but then she wasn't in it. And, you know, obviously all the other girls are having a million different other jobs, so probably they don't necessarily have the time to really fit it, but it's better to just come back and do this pretty basic stuff. You know, Apink for me is one of the best girl groups ever, so when I hear this type of stuff I'm very, very critical, because I know they can do better than this. And to me this is the biggest probably disappointment of this year, I would say, considering how much I really like this group. 17, I think it might shock a lot of people, but for me it's TAEYANG with Down to Earth. I felt like when I listened to this project I couldn't believe it. Like, it felt old, it felt in certain moments even just weird. It didn't sound as good as it could have. TAEYANG obviously singing wise is good, but it can't carry a song on its own. It's impossible, specifically if the production doesn't hit, and the features simply didn't make any sense, and even the continuity of the album wasn't there. Overall I felt like it's just a failed project from an artistical sense. Obviously commercially did very good. Obviously TAEYANG is an icon in Korea. But number 16, another one I waited for, but I kind of knew this was gonna happen, which is Jimin with Face. I've always said that I thought Jimin and Jungkook were the two guys that they wanted to make hyper mainstream, and they did. I just think this album, again, it's just a mash of different things that don't fit well with each other. I don't like the fact that Jimmy's voice is constantly filtered through this weird like auto-tune or whatever they use to like change the pitch of his voice to make his singing worse. I don't like the fact they're trying to make him into a super popular pop artist, where I think the best songs in the albums, or like in general for him, is the more laid back songs where he can really showcase his vocal ability. But these are style of bangers like they did with Jungkook, where I think Jungkook fits that a little bit better. I just don't think with Jimin they fit as good as they could, as good as they think they could. Obviously number wise they're crazy, but I don't care about numbers, and that's why it's here. Number 15, DPR IAN with Dear Insanity. I've talked about this in the past, I'll talk about it now. I think DPR, for me, specifically IAN, is just not a good artist, in my opinion. Like, his vocals are not that great, but I think the biggest thing for me is lyrics. He is one of the corniest lyricists in the country, and production wise the albums, I just don't think they're very good. They want to be eclectic, experimental, but they just end up being cheesy and actually noisy and bothersome to the listen. So definitely one of the worst listens. Number 14, we have BI with Love the Love Part 2. BI also has one of the worst albums of the year and has one of the best albums of the year. I just didn't like this project. It felt like a lot of the throwaways he couldn't put in his first full-length project of the year. And I don't like it. I just think it's obviously bad songs overall that don't make any sense to be on a project, and he released them. So number 13, Sik-K and HAON with Album on the Way. Now this is one of the worst hip-hop albums I've heard in years. It's bad, it's arrogant, it's pretentious, it's lyrically shit. It's not catchy at all. It's 6 songs produced all the same. It's the same fucking beat. Unacceptable. One of the worst projects I've heard. Next we have Jizu with I Feel. Like, let me say this before anybody gets mad at me. I've said that Jizu has improved, but I also think Jizu has released one of their worst singles ever. I also think that on this album it showcased my biggest issue with this group, which is the fact that Soyeon still dominates too much of the songs. And I don't think she should. Because she's not a weak artist in itself, but she makes her group weaker when she tries to be the protagonist every single time. That's just the way I feel. Number 11, LOCO with Weak. This is a half disappointment, really. There were some songs I enjoyed, but overall it felt like a rushed project. Like, it feels behind. It feels like he's stuck in 2018. Like, you listen to where Code Kunst is, even J Park, you listen to, you know, Wonjae, you listen to Lehigh. Like, he's stuck in 2018, 2019 before he went to the military, and then when FT came back he didn't really do much. Like, he's stuck there. Like, they've moved on. They have evolved as artists, and I think that's the biggest problem for LOCO. He has to evolve, because if not, he will be left behind. Hip-hop right now is at its best. It's ever been in Korea, and when you produce this type of music, you just stand out more in a negative. Maybe in 2018 I would have been more positive about it, but now it's just not that good. Number 10, Loren put up a fight. I think the Black Label was fucking garbage this year, and you will see a couple of Black Label artists as we go on. But yeah, it's just not good enough. Like, the lyrics are not good enough, the production is not good enough. Definitely vocally is very, very weak, and that I think emo aesthetic is going for just doesn't work. He's not believable in it, and he doesn't really exude that artistically and musically anyway. So he's not like a Soundgarden, you know, like he's not doing that type of stuff, obviously, but that's the point I'm trying to make. Number 9, we have TXT with the Name Chapter Freefall. I think this is, you know, that meme always says what happened to the game I love. Like, this is exactly what I feel about when I listen to TXT. You just feel dead. They feel like they're not a group that I recognize anymore. They're a group that can look back and say they're just dead. As I want them to be a huge marketing group in the West. That's where they're pushing them. They died production-wise, artistically, vocally, melodically, rhythmically, tonically. They've died in every single aspect of what made them special. Experimentation is dead. It's the most basic genre styles you can do. Why? I have no idea. It's inexplicable. Number 8, Omegax with iykyk, which I don't know what it means. I should check, to be fair. Omegax had a lot of issues this year, obviously with their label and everything, even last year. But I think the album is just not good. Obviously, they've gotten better at one point last year when they were going good, and then they had all that shit with their company, and they started 2022 bad, and they continued bad. And I think this album really kind of showcases that problem right now, where I think they're out of the label, but they've had a lot of issues with another label as well. So I hope things get better for them going to 2024. They've had a really rough year and a half since their debut. It's been really rough, and I feel bad for them. Number 7, we have Jizu with Me. Now, people say, well, Jizu Me is only 2 songs. I don't care. She released Flower, which is one of the worst singles of the year. And again, my issue with this track more than anything is that if you look at Lisa, Jenny, or Rose even, like, it's in line who they are as people, you know, like in the sense of what we think of them as people, or even as artists. We don't know them personally, but from the outside you can say, okay, Jenny is more like a solo type of artist, or Rose is more of an on the ground, and Lisa is more of this, and Money, I think it's called, right? They fit that image. this doesn't fit Rose or Jizu at all, because we know who Jizu is. That's not who she is. She's not this type of person. So to make her this like super cold or distant artist that it's just about her looks and not her personality, it just completely fails me in my opinion. And again, vocally, she's never been a great singer. I think in this song it really showcased, in this album really. And the productions are very generic, which is the problem when Teddy produces 90% of your. Number 6, we have DIFF with D major. Probably one of the weirdest hip-hop I've ever heard in a negative way. Like, it makes no sense that you could release an album like this and have the face to go around with the city. Like, people should throw tomatoes at you for how bad it is. The autotune is fucking garbage, and really the productions are just, I think, I don't know anything about music objectively. They're objectively bad. They're so bad that I can tell that they're objectively badly produced. 5, Chanmina with Naked. This is another huge disappointment now that I think about it. Why pop rock? Why pop punk, pop rock? Why? Like, why this thing came back in the last 2 years in K-pop? It's bad if you can't do it good. You have to be good at doing it. And there's a reason why people love those groups from the early 90s, early 2000s, because they did pop punk good. Not all of them, but a lot of them did. Even if you listen to Good Charlotte now, they work. Like, it's not an easy thing to do, but then you listen to other 80 groups and they don't sound good at all. It's very, very hard to do the genre, because it's a thin line between something really bad or really good. So you have to be able to play that, and I just don't think they did it with Chanmina at all. I get it, because I think I'm gonna check one thing actually. Let me check really fast. I get it because she's super popular and everything, and I know she released another album, which was definitely, I think, a better project overall. Even though it was just a live set, but it was a better project. But I'm seeing that, and now that I think about it, isn't Chanmina Japanese? Or am I wrong? No, she's Korean. Okay, my bad. I mean, she's half Japanese, half Korean. Okay, so it's both. But anyway, like, I didn't get this project at all, considering where she was going before, which felt like it made sense and really fit her image. Like, this complete change of pace is just very weird. You know, it seems to me, at least from the outside, that the company told you, look at TXT doing very well with this or this group, and we can do that. I just don't think it made a lot. Maybe in Japan, by the way, where I know she works a lot, that goes very good. I don't know, but I just don't think it makes much sense to me. Actually, I realized they didn't record certain parts of the video for whatever reason. I forgot. Definitely one was for SORAN with setlist. I mean, just a bad album overall. I think it really is a failed project from start to finish. Just doesn't sound good, and vocally he's really not focused on his album. He's very, very indecisive, and I would say very unstable as well. So yeah, this was one of the biggest, I think, not necessarily disappointments, but like letdowns of the year, 100%. Then we're getting into the 3 worst albums. You know, the bronze medal goes to Bryan Chase with Toyu. This project is just bad. It feels old. Like, if this came out in 2011 SoundCloud, I'd be like, oh, that's cool, you know. But today, it's just badly produced. Vocally, he's not very good, and lyrically, he's very basic. So he's just your standard Korean hip-hop artist that wanna be a trapper. And that means it's very uninteresting in itself. Number 2, and this is a huge example from a hip-hop perspective for me, which is Coogie with DIFF. Now, when Coogie joined AMG, he joined well. He just a couple songs I thought, oh, interesting. And then he went to release probably the worst Korean hip-hop album I've heard ever. It's so fucking bad. Like, I couldn't believe he had the gall to come out with music like this. And you would think, man, it must be a super long project. If my memory doesn't fuck with me, okay, let me check. It's 7 songs, it's 18 minutes, so every song is like 2 minutes. It felt like cancer. And it's funny because JKY, who came back recently, you know, actually is the best part of this project, let's say. So for me to see that, you know, him doing so bad just makes no sense. You're in a company with better producers, with better engineers, whatever, and yet you make your worst project. It just, he seemed lost. I don't know what happened, but it's a terrible project. And number one, obviously, it's Jungkook with Golden. I don't have much to say. I've talked shit about this album all year. I think it's just a combination of where I think Jungkook is as an artist, as a talent level, and to put him to make this very generic, like super popular pop music that sounds very bad, and they put effects on his voice. In fact, the best song is the one with no effects on his voice, and it's slower. It doesn't try to be a charting song. They've pushed him with every single or popular Western artist at this moment. Just think in general, it's a failed concept for them, and I get it. It makes them money, a lot of money. It made Jungkook into a huge world star, which he already was. But I don't really care about this. I have to look at the quality, and considering how long it is, considering probably how much money they put in it, it's definitely the worst album of the year. And this is it, obviously, for the worst albums of 2023. This is the entirety of the list. Tell me what you think. Tell me what your least favorite album of the year. Remember, don't take it personal. It's just music. We're talking about music and the artistry of these albums, which I thought it wasn't good enough. Tell me what you think in the comments, and see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.